anyway, 3 years ago, I started talking about school choice in Washington, and 3 years later, there's been a presidential election, there has been 2 congressional elections, and what do you know, the roller coaster, we are back on top. And the tide is in, pick your metaphor, but this is a very unique moment we have right now, which I will get into, because we are poised for success, but success is no guarantee in this business, as we know. So before I get into that, let me just back up a little bit, if I may. The Educational Choice for Children Act, the reason that that bill is in Congress now really stems back to 2017 in Trump's first term. And that was the result of several years of effort we made here in Albany to pass school choice. Now you might think, well, you know, why would the Assembly Democrats, why would then Governor Andrew Cuomo ever do such a thing? Well, believe it or not, in Cuomo's first and second term, there was a lot of interest he had in doing this. He had his own reasons, but Andrew Cuomo was very interested in doing something along the lines of school choice. My theory on it was he didn't really like NYSET. The teachers union, the state teacher unions, they didn't like him. It was a mutual dislike, and he wanted to show them up, basically. That was my theory on it. He also wanted to do something for Cardinal Dolan out of the Archbishop of New York. And so we had a state Senate of Republicans. We had an Assembly Democrat majority, of course. But that majority in those days, too, had a lot of reform-minded Democrats, people like Marcus Crespo, Michael Cusick from Long Island. We also had the leadership of Marty Golden in the state Senate. So there was a lot of promise in getting something done, and we pursued it for several years, and it actually came quite close to enacting it. And ironically, I'll always be convinced that the indictment of Sheldon Silver in February of 2015, 10 years ago this very month, probably hurt our efforts, because Silver was strong enough where he could have jammed the issue through his conference. He could have told NYSET, stand down, I'm making a deal, we'll get you something else. I mean, that's what he had done with the charter school issue several times. But his indictment led to a new speaker who didn't have 20 years of building up his power, and Carl Hastie was not able to deliver. And NYSET helped actually make him become speaker, so he wasn't about to double-cross them by agreeing to a deal on school choice. So what we did was we turned our focus to Washington, Donald Trump's first term. Republicans had both houses and didn't get very far at all. And we took those lessons, and in 2021, Biden's first year, 22, when I came here early, we took those lessons of an issue like this needs to be marinated, it needs to be talked about, you need to go to Republicans, you need to educate hundreds of people, one by one, their staff, members, you need to build a coalition, and we've done that. If you see a handout I gave you here, describes the bill. At the very last bullet, talks about a coalition, which has a link. I can send this to anybody, by the way, electronically. I can happy to email it to you. But we have a coalition across the country of more than 150 organizations, and this has been building up for 3 years to get us to this point. And so you've often may have heard school choice described as the civil rights of the 21st century. Okay, that's kind of a trite, very apt phrase. And if you remember from your history books, civil rights in 1964 and 5 was passed to overcome state opposition in the old Confederacy, right? There was a big debate about states' rights versus, you know, does Congress have this kind of power in the Constitution? Well, as Everett Dirksen from Illinois said, famous Republican senator, civil rights was an issue whose time had come, and it passed, and it overcame that old Confederacy opposition. Well, today we have what I call the new Confederacy. We have big blue states like New York, California, Illinois, Michigan, even a place like Kentucky, which is a red state but has a court that struck down school choice over something called the Blaine Amendment. And we are at the point now where Congress is the way to transcend that opposition. And Congress can do this in a way that does not violate federalism, does not increase bureaucracy and spend more money, but in fact Congress can do this, as I've outlined in that handout that's on several tables. Congress can do this in a way that does what Republicans have been doing since the late 70s. They've been using the tax code to drive private sector behavior. In this case, a tax credit, is something that whatever you donate, you have some percentage come off of what you owe. Not reduce your taxable income, but actually what you owe, your liability. In this case, it's a 100% tax credit that if given to a scholarship fund serving K-12 students, elementary and secondary school, you can have that come off of what you owe in federal taxes. So it's a tax incentive that drives private money, corporations and individual donations, to these scholarship funds. This is something that's used in 21 states. We want to have it go national. So states that have school choice will have more of it. States that have no private school choice, this will fill an enormous void in a place like New York and transcend this know-nothing obtuse legislature up the street who can do nothing to stop it. The regions can do nothing to stop something like this. So that's the point where we are. And so what has to happen now? The next few weeks and months are really pivotal. As Jason said at the beginning, we have a chance for a great conservative victory. This has long been an issue in the Conservative Party's agenda, and we can now deliver it for New York families. And when the families benefit and the children are getting more scholarships and they're having these kinds of choices to go to a Catholic school, to go to a Christian school, to go to the school of their parents' choice, the way wealthy people can do it, no one's going to sit there and think, well, you know, I'm still a little uncomfortable with federalism, or, gee, you know, shouldn't have this been done locally? No, no, no. This is an enormous policy victory we're on the threshold of. And so what needs to be done from everybody in this room, what I encourage you to do is that we're way beyond civic exercises, and this is about, as committee members, as activists, take time in the next few weeks and reach 6 people who represent, 6 Republicans who represent the state of New York in Congress, one of whom we're going to hear from very soon, who's been a fabulous supporter, Congressman Lawler, who's been just a great leader on this issue in Congress. But we have 6 Republicans to convince to pass this bill this year, and specifically in what's called the reconciliation legislation. Should be a fairly familiar term. A reconciliation bill is a budget and tax bill that can pass the Senate with just a simple majority. It's filibuster proof. There's no filibuster that can stop it. Chuck Schumer cannot stop a reconciliation bill. All you need is Republicans to pass it, and you have them in the Senate. You have a very slim Republican majority in the House, but this is very doable. And so your assignment, if you choose to accept it, is go to one of the 6 or more of those 6 members of Congress who are Republicans, who get the Conservative Party's endorsement as committeemen and activists, make a point of going to them. Meet them in their office on a Friday when they're home in the district. You know, get to them, bring your friends, bring your other activists, and tell them this is important to you. Now, all 6 of these people, well, 5 of the 6 people are all in favor of it. 5 of the 6 members are co-sponsors. So let's just rattle them off. There's Claudia Tenney, who's on the Ways and Means Committee, which has the jurisdiction over this bill. There's Nicole Malliotakis from Staten Island and South Brooklyn. She's also on the Ways and Means Committee, which has jurisdiction. Very important. I mentioned Mike Lawler from the Hudson Valley. There's Nick Langworthy from the Southern Tier. There is Joe LaLota from Eastern Long Island. He's a co-sponsor. And there is Andrew Garbarino, who I have more to say about, because he is the one member who is not a co-sponsor of this, who would not co-sponsor this when he was asked several times. And he's also the only Republican member of Congress who got NYSET's endorsement, the state teacher unions. So, again, not making any editorial comment on that, but very important, all of them need to hear from you. And look, they're going to say, yeah, I support it, sure. But when they hear from folks in this room who mean a lot to them, who have a lot to say about whether they're nominated on the Conservative Party line, you have leverage. And this is all about priorities, because all these Republicans, they're for a lot of things. And so the challenge we have is not just getting them to support it, like in a sort of perfunctory, ostensible manner. We need them to get it passed, to work their colleagues, to go to leadership, to make sure it's in the reconciliation bill in a large number so it can reach people children in every district in New York State. I mean, that's the key. So you want to sort of look past yeah, I know you support it, but I need you to do it. I need you to get this in the reconciliation bill. It's as important to the party. It's important to us. We work the streets for you. We ring doorbells for you. We need you to get this done for us. This is a long time coming, and now is the time. Next year it might be too late. We may not have a moment like this in our lifetime. It's that the stakes are pretty high. So we can't assume anything. I consider this an uphill fight. And you're not questioning or disrespecting anybody by pushing back and say, no, Congress member, we need you to do this. Tell me you're going to do this. You know, work your colleagues and get it done. So I really urge you to spend the next few weeks. This is a deliverable. This is a very tangible victory in our grasp. But if we kind of sit back and let someone else do it, Congressman so-and-so may have 5 other things they care about more, and this may not make it, or at least it may get passed in a very token, it may be small ball. And, okay, here's $1 billion, be happy. Well, $1 billion doesn't buy what it used to. It's a big country. Like, we need a robust $5 to $10 billion legislation so children across the New York State can benefit. So with that.